What is going on, everybody? My name is Dakota and welcome back to Coda's Cologne. Today we're going to be looking at and reviewing Roja's Elysium. This is a wonderful summer fragrance. This is today's scent of the day. Alrighty, so on days like today when it is blazing hot outside, like 107 degrees, I like to go with the freshest, cleanest, almost watery kind of feeling fragrances out there. And I've got enough of my collection that this one is not one that I reach for commonly, but we don't really have a whole lot going on today. I'm kind of having a lazy day around the house doing a review. And even though it's so hot outside, I still want to smell like it. I still want it to smell like summer inside. So that's why we are doing into this one. All right, so first thing I want to do is go ahead and show off the atomizer. The atomizer on this one, for what it is just okay. So yeah, as you saw, kind of a wide burst, not a whole lot of pressure behind it, not like a real big spread burst, anything. So as far as atomizers go on this one, okay at best. Now what you get for the scent quality that is just floating around in the air is a profile that is absolutely amazing. It's citrusy, it's got a little bit of floral to it, it's got a little bit of, some of that floral needs to be a little bit of green. It's fresh, it's relaxing, it's got a little bit of a woody undertone, and that's just kind of what floats around in the air when you first put it on. So now what we're gonna do is go ahead and put a couple there on the arm. So when you first spray this on the skin, the biggest thing you're gonna notice, or the biggest thing that my nose tends to notice, this has lime in the opening paired with grapefruit. And to me, on my nose, that is the biggest dose that I get when it hits me. That lime gives it like a little bit of a green bitterness, and that grapefruit gives it a little bit of that tanginess. And the opening on this works very well. The other thing that you tend to get a little bit on the opening is a splash of that vetiver and a little bit of the wood note. This fragrance has one of the longest note breakdowns, I think, of any fragrance I've done on the channel. And that almost makes it hard to pinpoint exactly what you get when you're spraying it. So some of this may be a little off, some of this may be right on. And when you have a fragrance like this that has so much going into it, it's incredibly hard to get a beautifully smooth blend on these. And I feel like Roja did a very good job of getting a smooth blend. Because normally when you have a lot of fragrances with just an insane amount of notes, they end up fighting each other. Sometimes you get notes that are a little contradictory, they don't complement each other well. You don't really get that with this. They use notes that do complement each other extremely well. But as this gets drowned down a little bit, I'm gonna get this flipped around. We're gonna go over the bottle and I'll be back here in a second. Alrighty, this one has a laundry list of notes. I'm gonna go through these rather quickly. The top notes are gonna be grapefruit, lemon, bergamot, lime, artemisia, thyme, and galbanum. Hope I said that right. The middle notes on this is gonna be vetiver, juniper berries, black currant, apple, pink pepper, cedar, cyper oil, lily of the valley, rose, and jasmine. And with the base notes falling down to a small amount of ambergris, leather, vanilla, benzoin, and labdanum. So as previously stated, there's so many notes that go into this one fragrance, it's actually really hard to pick them apart. What I can tell so far, the notes that tend to hit me the hardest is going to be the lime, some of the vetiver, a little bit of the juniper, cedar, and some of the floral notes either being jasmine or lily of the valley. When this dries all the way down, you do get hints of that leather, you get a little bit of that benzoin, and some of that labdanum. So the dry down on this really isn't bad. It's hard to pick out what actually goes in this. But with that being said, let me get y'all flipped back around and we'll get into the rest of it. Alrighty, and we are back. So as this starts to dry down, this doesn't have the biggest change to it. It does stay just a little bit linear, at least on my skin. One of the things that does tend to start to pop and shine out of this is as it dries down, some of the floral notes tend to gain a little bit of steam. Some of the wood notes tend to get just a little bit stronger. And some of the sweetness starts to come through. Now, benzoin's the sweetener in this, or benzoin is one of the more sweeter things in this. And that does a really good job of doing that like kind of sweet mineralistic vibe that goes with the floral and wood notes that you get out of this, and they did a really good job on that. But as it starts to dry down, one of the darker notes in this tends to be leather. As it's drying down, you do get tiny little leather notes kind of floating around in the background. But as this gets drying down a little bit more, we're going to go over the price, performance, and availability on this thing. Price wise, retail is going to be about $300. Discounters is going to be the way to go. Discounters on this about that 190 to 210 range. This is the 100 ml bottle. Availability wise, most big box stores aren't going to have this. It's pretty much going to be online, or it's going to be like fragrance centers at malls and stuff like that. That'll probably be your best chance of actually getting your hands on this that's not at discounters. And performance wise, that is going to be my biggest gripe on this fragrance actually. So the performance on this fragrance, for the concentration, for the note breakdown, that everything you get, Honestly, it's kind of poor. On my skin, I only get about 4, maybe 5 hours on this, and that's spraying it a little bit heavy. The sillage on this is actually where this one kind of does best. It does kind of fall away from you very quickly. Unfortunately, it just doesn't last long. But the fall away on this is about that 2 feet range. It does fairly well. The projection on this is okay. The projection is sub 2 foot, but it still does well enough. That is going to be one of my biggest complaints though about this fragrance is for the concentration, for the scent profile, for the name, for everything. It does not perform very well. Some people might be able to wear this and be an all-day performer for them. I hope people can wear this and get that kind of performance out of it. That would be awesome. I just know me on my skin, this is not the best performer for me. But yeah, now that this had a little bit more time, the dry down does start to get a little linear from that mid tier to that base tier. The leather kind of stays faintly noted in the background that I can tell. The vetiver kind of the same, little faintly in the background. What I get the most out of this is actually the wood notes, and the wood notes on this are very good. The cedar note the cedar they used in this, it must be a very good blend because it does smell premium. Another big note that I tend to get way off of the bottom is what I'm pretty sure is labdanum. Some of the floral notes tends to fall down to the base with this. So when this does go all the way down into the deepest dry down, you wind up with a slightly leathery, fresh green fragrance that has good aromatic twists to it, that's got a little floralness to it, but down in the deepest dry downs, this also keeps a little bit of the citrus nature from the opening. So there is pieces of this when you spray it, it does stay linear. Some of the stuff does tend to drop off. Some of the stuff tends to hang around a little bit. One of the things that hangs around in the deepest dry down is going to be some of those citrus notes. Specifically, what I feel like I can pick out is the lime in it. I feel like that lime note is very strong because it has just a little bit of a bitter nature from the opening all the way down to the base. Fairly sure that's the lime or maybe the bergamot that I'm picking up on. But if I had to give this fragrance a rating right now, as much as I do like this profile, I would still probably only give it maybe an 8.5. And the biggest thing that I'm going to knock it for is going to be the performance, unfortunately. A lot of the freshy fragrances out there now have figured out a way to get big performance out of them. I wish Roja would take after that because for the price point that this fragrance comes in at, the fragrance to performance ratio is kind of why I'm scoring it the way I am. Because if you bought this retail for $300 and you only got 4 or 5 hours out of it, you would be extremely disappointed because at this point, you would have to put so much on that when you first start wearing it, you're going to choke out everybody around you just to get it to last more than say 5 or 6 hours. Unfortunately, there is a lot of fresh fragrances that smell just as good, or obviously in some of people's opinions may smell better, that comes in for way cheaper that will smell as quality as this. And that's the part that almost hurts my feelings. Roja is a great brand. They have made some amazing fragrances. And the scent profile on this one, as I said before, is rock solid. I really like it. I just want it to last a little bit longer. I want some of that citrusness to pull all the way through and last 6 or 7 hours. I want some of that floral, some of that lily of the valley, some of the rose. I want some of that to pull all the way down into the dry, all the way into the deepest parts of the dry down. And unfortunately, this just doesn't do that. So that's kind of why I'm scoring it where I am. But with that score being wrapped up, I think that is going to get us wrapped up on today's video. Go ahead and get in on this one more time. But yeah, beautiful bottle, beautiful presentation. It's got nice little, they do have a lot of really fine, nice touches on this bottle. But unfortunately, there's just quite a few things that, as good as this fragrance smells, for the price point that it comes in at, it should be better. But that, again, that's all based on my opinion. But yeah, that is going to get us wrapped up. As always, thank you everyone for watching, for sticking around, for staying tuned, listening to these videos and stuff like that. I truly appreciate it. And always, thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you next time.